Hey, what's going on, guys? Gamerdude back once again with another episode in our Just the Facts series. Today we are discussing something a little bit different and something I have actually covered before regarding the Uncharted series. But a bit more information has cropped up over the years, so I figured why the hell not? So anyway, let's get on with it and talk about what we all want and need to see from the future of the Uncharted series. Now, this will be more of a what we want story rather than a just the fact story, but I will try and sneak in a couple of little facts regarding the next couple of Uncharted games, if there are to be any in the series. So yeah, on with it. So, 3 years after Nathan Drake's journey came to an end, we turn our thoughts to what could come next. Now, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End came out 3 years ago and brought Nathan Drake and his treasure hunting days to a rather bittersweet end. And I can't stress enough how beautiful that ending was. It was a major send-off for Nathan Drake and Nolan North as his character. Absolutely love the ending. I will not fault it. But however, since then we've had the standalone spin-off Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. I have, however, just finished a playthrough on that if you guys want to check it out. This game featured Nadine with returning character Chloe from Uncharted 2 and 3 joining forces with Nate's long-lost brother Sam Drake. Still don't understand how they could introduce a brother, given in Uncharted 3 we had that flashback where Nate met Sully, and at that point Nate should have actually still been with his brother. But yeah, continuity aside, now fans' thoughts turn to where the series could go next. I mean, mine are anyway, I don't know about you. It is extremely likely that we'll be seeing another core game in this series. But now that Nathan Drake has settled down with a family, it'll most probably go in an entirely new direction. As I've said it on the live streams, I said it in my previous Uncharted video, that it will probably focus more on Nate's daughter, or Sam, or Sully, possibly even Chloe and Nadine again, maybe even the next one playing as Nadine. We could even have a completely new cast altogether, just featuring a whole new series. But I would really enjoy it if it featured Nate's daughter and we got to play as Nate's daughter. She got in some kind of trouble and Sam and Sully had to go bail her out, or maybe even Nathan Drake himself comes out of retirement and goes out to save her. I mean, because by this point Nate is probably the same age as Sully. He's probably about 50, maybe 60, and Sully must be pushing 80 by the time the prologue came along. So you've kind of got to think about it. If Sully can still do it, then so can Nate. You know, he can always return. Do not write the character off just yet. But Naughty Dog are, of course, busy working on The Last of Us 2 at the moment, and there hasn't been any kind of official announcement as to a new Uncharted game in the works. Still, it's natural to assume we'll see one in the future, given the popularity and success of the series of franchises from PlayStation. Since it's a pretty far off prospect at this point, we can probably assume that it's going to be a next gen title and land on the highly anticipated PlayStation 5. I mean, I'm still unsure about getting a PlayStation 5. I mean, yes, to say it's backwards compatible, but it's only backwards compatible for PS4 games. So unless something decent comes out on PS5, what's the point in me getting a PS5 just so I can play my PS4 games? It's like, yeah, that's not going to work, Sony. You're not going to sell me on that unless you bring something decent out. Moving on. Back in April, Only SP interviewed Nathan Drake's voice actor, so Nolan North, and asked about the potential for a 5th installment of the series. Nolan North responded in kind. He said, "A lot of people want the 5th Uncharted, but that ship has kind of sailed," Mr. North said. Now, admittedly, that doesn't sound too optimistic. It doesn't sound like there's going to be another game, that Naughty Dog have moved on to other titles, or Nolan North just doesn't want to do it anymore, because in that statement he didn't seem too overly hyped to want to carry it on. You know, most voice actors will say, oh yeah, I'd love to come back, I'd love to return, I'd love to do it again. Like Kevin Conroy as Batman, for example. My last Just the Facts series last week, I mentioned about Kevin Conroy loving the role, loving the character, loving the games himself, and he would love to come back. However, Mr. North on this one, he doesn't seem too optimistic about wanting to make a return. But saying that, it doesn't outright mean we won't ever see another game in the Uncharted world. You know, talking about A Thief's End, Mr. North said, "It was a bittersweet end to the franchise, but we're pretty proud of what we've made. And if that's the way that Sony and Naughty Dog decide to leave it, then I'm fine with that." Once again, that tells us he's not too bothered whether they make another one or not. I mean, there is of course that Uncharted movie coming along with Tom Holland playing a young Nathan Drake. Now, I'm not too sure how that's going to play out, because a young Nathan Drake, that's been explored. That was explored in Uncharted 3 and Uncharted 4, and it was pretty underwhelming. It was pretty boring, actually, playing as a young Drake. I mean, because no guns, no, lasso-y things jumping across buildings. It was kind of underwhelming, and I wouldn't like to see that in a movie. But if they got Pierce Brosnan as Sully, that I could work with. Pierce Brosnan is a fantastic actor, and I would love to see him as Sully. And Sully is British, and so is Pierce Brosnan, so it's a perfect match. It's a perfect fit. They need to do this. I need to pitch this to Sony. But saying all that as well, the fourth installment, in my opinion, played out like a fond farewell to the treasure hunter we'd all filled the shoes for of the 4 games. But given how much they could do with the game's world, and the wealth of the established characters, who could easily take us on a new adventure and new experience, it's hard to imagine the series won't ever return in some way, shape or form. I mean, again, I would love to see it return. You know, maybe, I don't know, we see a game featuring a younger Sully, like we play as a younger version of Sully. That would be really cool to explore Sully's origins, and then at the end of the game, it tells us how he met Nathan Drake, because it was explored a little bit as to how he met Nate in Uncharted 3 in the flashbacks, but we didn't see it fully. I would love to see that journey of Sully, just, I don't know, maybe Sully from his early 20s, early 30s, couple of missions around that, then there's a time skip up to his 40s, 50s, and then he meets Nate. That would be epic, and it would be a great way to end that game. Or just have a game where you transition between playing from not Nate, sorry, because Nate's gone. You play as Sam Drake, that's what I meant to say, Sam Drake, Sully, and Nate's daughter. That'd be really cool, because it'd be 3 playable characters, and it'd just make the story a vast open world. Well, semi-open world. We know Uncharted's kind of open world, but it's like semi-open world. So, with the news that the much talked about Uncharted movie, as I was saying, starring Tom Holland as the young Nathan Drake, is actually finally coming out in 2020, the series is still very much on our minds. While we may not have any solid details about the next game, or the movie for that matter, that doesn't stop us from wondering what it could be like, and what we'd love to see in the next installment, or installments. So, settle in, get comfy, as I list everything that I have found, that people want, that people have seen, that people have found leaks upon, regarding the Uncharted movie and Uncharted 5. Well, Uncharted 6, I guess, because Lost Legacy kind of counts as Uncharted 5. So, as I was previously mentioning, take us on a journey in someone else's shoes. After 4 games in the series with Nathan Drake as the leading main man, we're more than ready to see a new lead character to take us on an entirely different kind of Uncharted escapade. But who could it be? Well, once again, as I've mentioned before, in the epilogue of Thief's End, we are first introduced to Nate and Elena's daughter Cassie. Nathan and Elena agree to finally tell Cassie about their past, and the game comes to an abrupt, sun-soaked but yet emotional end. Now, you play as Cassie in this little bit, so it's about 5 or 10 minutes of gameplay, and she comes across this cupboard filled with all of Drake's little treasure troves from his previous hunts and previous delinquent activities. Let's call it delinquent activities. Let's go with that. You know, she finds all this stuff. She finds a gun holster. She finds a picture of him and Sully. He's holding a shotgun, and there's a lot of dialogue based around it. You have to play it to know what I'm talking about. But talking on that note, it could perfectly set up a new adventure in her shoes. Maybe she decides to follow in her parents' footsteps and become a treasure hunter herself. I mean, after hearing stories like that, you'd be pretty tempted to go off on your own adventures, right? Because Cassie was probably 12, 13, maybe 14 in that epilogue. And you've got to think, a kid of that age is going to hear all those stories and think, oh my god, that sounds absolutely amazing. I am totally going to do this. It's like when you're a kid and your mum and dad tell you not to do something. You're totally just going to do it. You know, it's the way that things go. But it would make me tempted to go off on my own sort of little adventures anyway. So, moving on from characters, let's talk about the future of the gameplay itself. You know, I really think, not that it hasn't been a brilliant series, not that there's plenty of action sequences and plenty of gameplay, but I really think they need to shake it up a little. Like, I would love to see the next adventure be a little bit more innovative with the gameplay side of things. Lots of big action sequence and mechanics begin to feel a little too familiar by the time we've reached the end of the series. So it'd be great to see them try bring something new to the table. A Thief's End definitely felt a lot more refreshing in terms of combat by bringing stealthy aspects into play in large open environments. It was the same in Lost Legacy. It had a lot of similarities to the core series, but the most welcome new feature was that Chloe had the unique skills that we saw that reflected her personality, like the lockpicking, for example. But to me, the Lost Legacy, it seems like they've just rebranded something. It seems like they've just stuck a name on something that isn't part of that series. Like, to me, and I said this in my live streams, to me it seems like the Lost Legacy is just a Tomb Raider ripoff. Like, it's a chick that looks a lot like Tomb Raider, raiding treasure and tombs and whatnot, just exactly like Tomb Raider, climbing up walls and swimming to get to things exactly like Tomb Raider. So that's what put me off about the Lost Legacy, because it just seemed like a rescreening of a Tomb Raider game with a different title. And I think that was a bit of a letdown on Naughty Dog's behalf. Not that the game wasn't brilliant, you know, I did enjoy the game, I'm not criticising the game. But I'd definitely love to see them build on this by bringing more new skills and unique fighting styles to any scuffles that you may have in the game. Especially if we end up in control of a new protagonist, introducing something new is a great way to revitalise a long-running series. And the next entry could well give the franchise a new lease of life by building on its established gameplay styles in new and exciting ways. I mean, talking about that, it would be really interesting to see a bigger open world, a bigger open environment. Because usually in the Uncharted series, Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, they had bigger open world environments, yes, but you could still only explore a limited amount of that world. Like the mission that's currently on screen at the moment, that was a huge environment. You could explore quite a lot, but eventually you'd come to an invisible wall and you couldn't explore any further. So what I'd love to see is, like, I don't know, maybe an entire town, and you know, you've got to search the town for clues as to where this next treasure is going to be. rather than it just being a whopping massive cutscene where someone gives you the details as to where the treasure is. That would be hella awesome and hella lit if they did that, because that would mean not only could they shave in some more gameplay time, but they could shave off a lot of cutscene time, which really does ruin the gameplay experience, because Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy, it was pretty much like watching a movie. There was a lot of cutscenes in these two games. But moving on to that, let's talk about a new setting. Now, this is something that I've found that's been leaked by several members of the gaming community. Even a former Naughty Dog employee talked about it, so there's some promise to it. So, since the first game, we've seen a lot of new locations throughout the series. From the Amazon rainforest in the first game, to Istanbul in Uncharted 2, and then London in Uncharted 3, Madagascar in A Thief's End. Journeying to new locations really does make everything feel fresh, really, and exciting. So we'd love to see, I'd love to see that is, the next game set in an entirely new location that presents a unique challenge and a unique gameplay experience. A Thief's End did flawlessly. It looked absolutely gorgeous. So I'd love to see it take on new vistas with even better looking graphics if it's on next generation. So the world is definitely Uncharted's oyster. The ball is in Naughty Dog's corner. So we really could end up getting stuck into a whirlwind escapade just about anywhere. It would be really cool to see a game based in Egypt. You know, the loot in an ancient tomb in Egypt or something. That would be kind of cool. Talking about that still, one of the former Naughty Dog employees was talking about some unused concepts for the games, and he did actually say, and I'm quoting here as well, he did actually say that the unused concepts were supposed to be used for another game. Unfortunately, that game never came to be. So it was a bad case of, with that, what that tells me, sorry, get my words out there, Gamerdude. What that tells me is that they were working on something, but then the whole team was called off to work on The Last of Us 2, which does make sense, to be quite honest with you. Now, moving on to another personal thing that I'd like them to introduce into another game, is the photo mode. The fourth installment was stunning, incredibly detailed, and gorgeously rendered, as was The Lost Legacy. It was impossible not to stop for a moment and just take in the sights. As a variable feast for the eyes, naturally lining up the perfect shot to capture the moment is a must. I mean, the amount of times on my playthroughs I stopped for photo mode is just wow. I mean, I've watched it back, I've watched my own playthroughs back, and I was like, did I really need to stop there? Because it just takes you away. It's like Spider-Man PS4 when you're taking a shot of Spidey through the city. There's just so much to see. But I'd definitely love to see an improved photo mode along the lines of that in Spider-Man, as I just said, to let us really show off just how beautiful the game will likely be. But the camera in 4 and Lost Legacy did have some nice features such as filters, borders, and different levels of sharpness. Capturing a great action shot of Nathan leaping off a platform was fun and all, but giving Chloe the different facial expressions in Lost Legacy was just brilliant, in my opinion, because it's the same as what they did with God of War when you've got Kratos pulling a funny face, or you've got Atreus doing a face palm. It's the kind of thing that just makes you want to play the game again. But another feature that the community and myself want to see return is the multiplayer. Of course, most players get Uncharted for the single player experience, but the multiplayer side of things became a much loved part of the franchise. In fact, Naughty Dog did announce a few months ago it's about to bring the online servers and support for the servers for Uncharted 2 and 3 on the PS3 to an end this September. Which is actually really quite crushing and really quite sad, because Monty Burns Wakey and I, we still play on the servers on Uncharted 3. We still go on it every so often on the PS3. So it would be really cool if, with the Nathan Drake collection, they gave us the online servers back, just for the cooperative side of things. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts and feelings on this. As gaming develops, really, and as we go through a series of new games, as we go into the next generation of consoles, what do you think is going to happen? Don't hesitate to let me know, no matter how positive or how negative. As I said at the beginning of this video, it was more of a it was more of a what people want, really, than a just the facts, but I did try to shove in a couple of factual things in there. But anyway, I'm rambling. So that's it for this episode. I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've expanded your gaming knowledge and given you a few little insights as to what the community wants for the next installment of the Uncharted series. So stay tuned tomorrow, because we will be continuing with another game in place of our Telltale game series until we are able to replace The Walking Dead Season 3, because once again it appears to have cooked itself and stopped working. Thank you very much. So don't miss out on that. Shout out to all subscribers, old and new. We are now at 935. We are getting ever so close to that 1k milestone, which is an absolutely amazing achievement, and I can't thank you all enough for the continuous support and views of my content. If you are new to the channel and enjoyed this video or any of my other content, make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe. I always sub back to new subscribers and view any content you may be producing. So that being said, this has been Just the Facts with Gamerdude. Happy gaming, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys.